Hey folks, welcome back. It is Lucid, and I'm once again joined by the Demosthenes.
Folks, I'm excited to share more of this cold Rhaga.
That's right, you are. All right. So last episode we were treated to a shameful battle in Lemuria. And here Lemuria rides out with even more consoles. I mean, this is a fuck ton of consoles. He has to win this. Yeah, he wins this, right? He must.
I think so.
This is... I mean, these guys are 25 death gems each. So every 4 is 100. So it's 250 death gems of consoles and 50 death gems of grand lemurs. So this is 300 death gems here.
Which, to be fair, Lemuria's capital makes like 9 and it's, turn 50. And I sold him some death gems for a staff of elemental mastery, which I have no regrets about. So
I'm just saying this is as many consoles as I may have seen in one spot before, and certainly by themselves.
Yeah.
Somehow they don't go in all at the same time. Oh, I hear dust to dust. We've got somebody on advancing cast. It's about to be a bad day for somebody. Summoning water elementals?
But
what the fuck is going on? Cleansing water? That does some damage.
Ice elementals are not going to do much. They're ethereal.
Yeah.
So
it can be kind of nice if you want to disrupt their formation, but really you just want to dust them.
That's true. They've got the Tungalix to dust them, but those guys are out of range. They're in...
there's a saying. I've learned this is very applicable in diplomacy, but it also has to do with like giving people advice that aren't always going to follow it, to their detriment. Is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So you've told them that they should do advance and cast. I remember you saying that. But you can't make them drink. Yeah. You can let them know.
And I think that the player for Atlantis in this game is relatively new. So I think he's getting probably a fun learning experience. Having seeing that it can be really hard to take a capital from somebody at the end of the game and so on. Like, obviously it's a little bit painful, but I think my sense is that his attitude is that it's interesting, not like, oh god, I'm losing or
I mean,
whatever,
he is right, but you
don't have to
do this
I guess
for 10 or 20 turns.
Yeah, but I think it is worth keeping in mind that especially as
your
a
aspirations aren't to win.
Dominions, like it's just super fun to just learn the experience of playing with other humans and seeing what kinds of stuff that they do.
Yeah,
that,
for sure.
And playing against good builds. Like you play in single player, people don't do the Lemuria, plus etc. bless,
is
right?
That what
like
they do the
Lemuria in single player does a random bless.
That's my bless.
Regeneration and recuperation, which I think is part of what's keeping all these.
But I've used it too.
The
funny thing though is this is so easily fixed. I've seen this Atlantis players make this mistake so many times. It's like it's really as easy as just putting your mages on advance and cast. It's so funny. And I think as somebody who has obviously played a lot of Dominions, I'm like, how could you not do it? How could you not? Oh man, they might actually kill him.
It's also worth mentioning, actually, that my recollection of when I used to play single player is that you almost never want to put somebody on advancing cast, because what happens is they go forward, and the AI as part of archers shoots your mages and kills them. So, it's sort of the fact that your opponent is using primarily a relatively small amount of quality troops that your front line is going to
block, not always the right move to make. Right, the advancing cast isn't always the right thing, for sure. And, you could argue whether it's even normally the right move. But... versus in this particular situation, I've seen so many different Atlantis players not do advancing cast when fighting Lemuria, because it's not like a weird matchup. Like Atlanta versus Lemuria happens in so many different late age games, and I feel like this thing always happens this way. Yeah. This is a hilarious battle.
Yeah, I guess this is the one thing actually, having that core of 5 Tungalix in the back doing scaly spam. I think actually is what is keeping Atlantis on the battlefield here. And I think you can see that the console is occasionally doing the special Lemuria steal, take command of undead spell, so they're occasionally getting some
that's actually here not a good thing. Oh, dust to dust. Oh, we're getting close to the battle limit. This thing's been going... Okay, oh, he's running. Jesus Christ almighty.
So actually, Atlantis won that.
10 consoles.
They lost another cap-only mage, right? So, you know, it's definitely not a... You're happy with it, Atlantis? But yeah, 10 consoles
so
is
much.
a lot.
It's so
Somebody
funny.
other than me must have sent
So
Lemuria
funny.
death
I don't know. I don't know why. I can't describe it. It's so funny. It's just like on one hand, I'm like, for shame, Dark Wolf, that you're stuck as Lemuria in your cap. But then it's also like Atlantis literally cannot kill them. It's the funniest thing to me. I don't know why.
So you can see there's an event in Rhaga. I guess this is one of the... once you've broken that seal thing, you get attacked by a size 2 water elemental, which...
Yeah, I think you got that.
Oh, it's sort of a funny squad of...
Yeah, that's why you did the water bottle.
Yeah, and he's got some bodyguards too, but I guess they didn't show up.
Oh, nice. This is the Mist-Covered Highlands event.
This is... I've got a Mist-Covered Highlands, which, you know, it's not really important to me, because I've got good air mages, but...
Yeah, the end of this event chain, you have a chance to get basically air 2 mages, so...
I think it's a 100% chance. I think it will get you it, but it might be turn 55 by the time you get them.
Okay, I thought there was 2 ways it could end, but we'd have to go check.
Okay, I could be wrong.
It's one or the other. You often will get it, and you're, as you said, it also may take forever. Okay, the stall continues up here. Research, we are Thom 7 already, and it's only 2 turns, probably, maybe a little bit more into...
2 turns, yeah. I have enough
you can flex it
that
at
I
the
can
end.
budget to get there. So.
All right, so that brings us to... Oh god, what turn was that?
I don't know, we're probably at 43 or so.
43?
If there's...
Yeah, okay, we don't have a battle with Atlantis.
Battle Lemuria, so yeah, that's good.
It's still under siege. It's so funny to me. We are, 1 turn.
And you can start seeing my modern logistics chain. So my current thinking is that Zabalba will be who I attack. And so I'm starting to just sort of ferry a bunch of stuff. So if you look at like who's moving into that province with the throne, I'm like have 3 flying boots that are being used just to ferry newly recruited mages to the one just west of here. That's where all of my lizard shamans and some magusses are coming.
Yeah, I like the decision to go on Zabalba. They look... I mean, honestly, I think Gath is the only person in this game who could give you any fight.
I think that's... Patala might be able to. Okay, maybe with the scripting we've seen, but yeah, you can look at that army. It's got 30 mages, 30 yogis, and I don't know. I think I agree that, like, unless they are being really thoughtful about their research targets and so on, like, going to be in trouble. I think it's more that, you know, this army is definitely a thing that you need a real army to answer. And so, you know, if I'm thinking about getting ganged up on...
You don't have a non-aggression pact with them, do you?
This is definitely... Nope.
I think you could also... I mean, this is an idea... I mean, this is why you don't sit armies like this out in the open. Like, hey, this is what I've got, and I'm going to sit it here for 15 turns. We could design an army that would kill this with minimal losses. And it's not even really that hard.
Absolutely.
You know, you'd have to have Alt 7, but...
Yeah, I think that's right. Like, Fog Warriors...
And Fog Warriors...
Firestorm to kill the Mage Core or something like that.
They would die in like a second.
Plus well wins to rout any mages who decide to actually fight.
But
you know.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's interesting, I think, to think about with that is nice thing going on a soft target like Zabalba is the war is going to be over really fucking fast, right? But if people are anything but asleep, everybody will declare war on you then, right? So then you'll have to fight this army.
Correct.
An idea, I'm not saying you should do it, but it's worth thinking about, right? Taking this out with Patala first, right? Like crippling Patala and then having a second wave that hits Zabalba. But just getting this out, like just assume this army is going to attack you. Why not kill it before, or like kill it during the opening salvo of the Zabalba war?
And I think that that's certainly
Yeah.
a thing that I'm considering. You know, I have a sort of some ideas that
Right.
might go into that. So one of the things that I plan to do once I get up Gilgate is make a few of the army size hiding items, such that if I wanted to, I could sneak,
Yeah.
you know, a 150 unit army up next to that. Or if I'm going on Zabulba, I could have like I've had this army sitting on their border for forever, but I could, you know, bump that up with everything from Bogaroos
Right.
invisibly to them, where it still looks like it's, you know,
Right.
200, 250 troops. And that fort, you know, where I have that army is actually in that move to flyer distance from like
Right.
half of Zabulba's empire, including most of their forts. So, you know, my current thinking is it's such a great first strike opportunity. And Bulba is one of those nations that, you know, they can do these, you know, I think they probably have their Ocelot, certainly, but they might be able to do, you know, Anakui assassins with lifelong protections or other really obnoxious things like that. So sort of getting rid of their places to hide in quickly, I think will just make the gameplay experience for me nicer than killing Patalas.
Do you have a non-aggression pack with Zabulba?
The only non-aggression packs I have are the early game ones I made with Agartha and Gath. Everybody else, it has just been, oh, I'm gonna, you know, look very spiky on their border. As my
sadly, I don't think there's. I don't actually think. I think it's going to be an anticlimactic endgame because there's no enemy for you to fight except Gath. Like Zabulba, honestly, you're going to roll over them, dude. It's going to be like Bogaroos 2.0. Yeah. Patala. I mean, Patala. They don't have any resistances in their bless, so they're not a nation with like unless they're at alt 9. I think you want to kill this deck before they get alt 9. Then you just firestorm wipe it with Fog Warriors up, and that's the end of that.
I mean, in theory, if they've got enchantment 7, you know, they might be able to do the 5 high resistance things aren't that strong. Yeah, I think it's going to be like if they do mass protection.
Yeah.
Even with the fire resistance, you know, sort of water or fire spells, you know, then I can heat from hell and fatigue play it. And you know, if they don't, I don't know. I think it's just gonna be very hard to protect that. Maybe if they could do marble warriors. So I think that they have
not
some
for this whole army, man.
Possibility.
It's not gonna happen. I mean,
yes,
I was saying, like, you roll up in here with Wailing Winds, Firestorm on fire-resistant troops and Fog Warriors with like 100 troops. Right, because you're going to need enough stuff so that you don't get magic dueled to death. Or not magic dueled, but, you know, like the other stuff, right? I mean, that's the other thing. Like, if he knows he's fighting you, he might magic duel. You could just come in and kill it, right? Like,
yeah.
But, I mean, Patala's been so passive that you might be able to literally finish off Zabulba in 3 turns before he decides to do anything. But...
absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know, the other news that you can see is actually Zabulba and Patala are fighting.
Oh, that's cute.
So there's mostly just been some raiding. You can see a few parties, like that party that you just looked at. There's just beast bats there, and that's because he's clearly mind hunted the ages who were there. So, you know, I do need to keep my eyes out for mind hunt fighting Patala, because he's clearly using it.
Yeah.
And this is just, you know, I put a scout there to see if there's a battle. And it's a huge army, but you know, it's a huge army that would have been a great army like 10 turns ago when he assembled it.
This guy's probably doing Fog Warriors too, though.
You know, he doesn't have any. Can't compare this. Oh, Communion. Yeah. He's probably doing Communion Fog Warriors.
He's got this
like
guy.
Yeah.
Moonblade. I'm thinking it is dangerous to rely on a Communion too. For important spells for an army this big. How much PD is here? Oh my god. 52.
I think it's 40. 52. Yeah. 52. You can tell by the militia.
Man. Yeah. I don't know. I'm like transfixed. You know, don't do this in games, guys. Don't have a standing army that you just sit here and say, please come kill it. I mean, this is bad on so many different levels. It was bad on the first level we talked about where you're wasting the army. It's not doing anything. Right?
I think it's researching.
Yeah, but the troops aren't researching, right? Like you need to be, you know, it's wasting the army. But the other thing is, it's just you're telegraphing all the stuff you can do. And Dominions is not the kind of game where you can sit there and say, hey, this is what I've got. Bring whatever you can. Like, this is like, you have to imagine it's T-ball, right? This isn't baseball. Baseball, the pitcher's throwing things that are hard for the batter to hit. But this Patala wants to play T-ball. And he takes his little ball and he puts it on a stand and says, bet you can't hit it. right? Like, don't do this.
I will say that this is a thing I like to do a lot in
Right.
single player. Because you have the AI crashing armies into some place, you
Right.
put a big PD bump, you have a bunch of mages sit there researching. Like, it is a
Yeah.
really good play in that context where if you have your guys inside a fort, then they can't participate in the constant battles with the waves of AI troops attacking.
And it's very time efficient for the player. You don't have to do a lot of scripting.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. Anyway, let's keep going. 44. And we're getting pretty close to your current turn. What are the things you want us to be looking at as we get close to that?
I think we should be looking at. Why don't we look at the Twiceborn? Yeah.
Ooh,
So this is one of the rare death randoms for this, and I think my plan is actually that this guy I'm going to use to cast Galegate. And the reason is that Seraphs with that random are grievously old, and I don't want him to randomly roll Feeble Mind in the winter.
Yeah.
So I just Twiceborn him. It makes him a little bit vulnerable. Like killing Twiceborning him is definitely a good idea. Twiceborning and killing him means that if he gets a random indie assassination and dies, then I lose the global. But the other hand, I think that the trade-off of
I don't know. Yeah.
So. Yeah, and I have that on some other mages, but I don't know. I decided I felt like doing this for this guy.
Okay, but that's cool.
And I think I don't think we get there's a big battle in Ulm. I think the Ulm capital in a turn or two that will be fun to watch.
That'll be fun. All right, let's go and check because the fort's cracked. Turn 45. Oh, you should have had. Did Galegate? Is that going up? Oh, you're casting that this turn, I'm guessing. Yeah, okay.
It's being cast this turn. Yeah.
Ooh, buddy.
Let's cast Galegate. Yeah.
40 a turn. And what did you spend your air gems on this turn?
This is my Rope of the Magi turn. So there's a few other things that I want to do, including I think just sort of logistics. Like I'm gonna start making my worm mages, and I want to make them in a place where my pretender is not, and that means I need enough boosters to make a nature 1 lizard shaman able to cast it, and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess actually, why don't you can see, there's a bunch more logistics. The other thing I'm doing is, I don't have native undead leadership.
Right.
And I've been summoning my storm demons wherever it is that I happen to have the mages who rolled those randoms, which, you could definitely move them to centralize. But one of the things I figured out is that one of my scouts or one of my Arya spa beds, if I give them those Amulet of the Dead, the little, you can cast animate skeleton item, it gives you 5-ended leadership. So I've been just having a little economy of flying around groups of 5 demons with those, and that'll be. I think I will use that as a sort of tool when raiding with them. It's also just good for getting the logistics.
I think the only failure mode you could potentially have fighting Zabalba is assassins.
Yeah,
you've got a lot of shit commanders, which is good. I think so. I think now we really are looking at. When are you looking to pull the trigger on this war with Zabalba?
I think around turn 50. I will say that I have been a little bit, sort of busy with life to fully plan the war. So I've mostly been just trying to get the materials in place to be able to march out. And but again, I sort of have a few research targets. I really want Alt 8 so that I can do quickening, because that's a thing that my water mages can do that I think will be really good for attacking a Zabalba fort. The first thing that's going to happen is a pile of bats are going to land on you, and that will be one of the things that will make that not be a thing I need to stress about too much, because I don't actually have the big sort of defensive buffs. I don't, I guess I just this turn got Fog Warriors, but I can do mass protection with a Communion or Thistle Mace or whatever. But anyway, I think quickening will be really good both for little raiding forces and for
I like
for things. So if you look at my magic item treasury on the last turn, I think we can sort of see what stuff I've been forging to sort of support that kind of thing.
7 Blood Rain.
7 is vampires.
I think it's really Blood Rain.
And Blood Rain. Yeah. Well, I need the vampires to cast Blood Rain
without a Sabbath.
Easily.
Yeah. Do you get? Can you get Blood 2s?
I get Blood 2s, so you can do a Bloodthorn. And actually, one of the things you'll see, I have this extremely long movement arrow coming from the far west. So that's a thing which I'm pretty pleased with. So it's not that guy. It's the bottom right corner.
The levitation ring.
So this guy has the boots of the 7-mile strides and the levitation ring. And this combination lets him move 5 provinces. And so this is how I'm ferrying some of these blood mages so that I can do a Sabbath.
I like that. I've done something similar with the flying. I forgot about the levitation ring because I was like, is this just as good as flying for movement, or is it not quite as...
It's pretty good. Floating, I think, gives you. I think if you cursor over floating, it'll say it gives you some survivals, like maybe mountain and forest or something, or swamp and forest.
Okay, so it's not going to be as good for like a wasteland then, or and cave.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The other trick that in caves. The other trick that I'm not doing in this game, but I might at some point. You can actually boost a little bit more if you give them the Amulet of Giants to make them larger for another 2-map move. And I've had times when I had a gem mule who I needed to get to where the army was in one turn, and every single movement boost ended up being necessary.
No, these are important little details.
Provinces.
Yeah, no, I think.
But one thing to note is if you look at my magic item treasury right now, like I just am getting, I have a lot of sort of partial things, like I'm starting to get the water gear to be able to do quickening without having to deal with gem logistics. Making a few Eyes of the Void, because I'm thinking that
stuff.
Since I went all the way up thaumaturgy, having charm available as an anti-super combatant thing will
for
be
nature mages. You thinking about doing Call the Worm That Walks? Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm casting that somewhere this turn or something like that. Anyway, it's pretty good.
It's super good. I mean, it's a 30 gem 3-path nature 3 mage.
And one of the things I want to highlight about Charm is that being, we've sort of haven't talked about it in a while because I haven't been fighting, but I have this Farcaster Bless. That means that Charm is actually a decent range spell. And so having a bunch of Lizard Shamans with Eyes of the Void doing Charm, I think will be pretty fun.
The Lizard Shamans, actually, one thing to think about is the slaves, try just putting 1 nature gem on them, and they'll probably beat a lot of assassins just by casting Swarm.
Yeah.
So they're probably pretty efficient assassin chaff.
The only problem with that plan is that my nature income is actually really bad. It's still... We actually can look at that because I've basically finished
how much
site searching. This is more or less what my final state is going to be. Well, if I make 3 worms that walk, I might just have 30 nature gems total. And if that's what I've got, I think I don't know. I might rather spend that on being able to do things like relief and stuff like that that'll protect me from...
That's fair.
Big spells.
But I will say, if you've got these guys are going to do pretty good in assassin battles with 1 nature gem. I do think it's worth figuring out. I don't know how many you want to put a nature gem on, but the number is probably bigger than 0. Put them on conservative gem use, make them a communion slave, and they're basically little assassin bombs ready to blow up.
Yeah, I think my current thinking is that I will probably have 1 big communion, but I'll probably also have some of my smaller parties that are either hitting a non-capital fort or whatever, like 1 or 2 of these guys designed to either get mass protection off or some other sort of more limited role. And it might be that those sort of smaller role guys will be more important to do the anti-assassin stuff on.
Maybe. I mean, the assassins are probably going to be in the forts though, right? Like
I think we missed the Gath battle. We should find that
go back.
In a bit.
We'll try to find it.
It was 45 or 40. Maybe I'm 45.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's 45.
All right, let's take a look. The battle for Ulm.
Yeah.
The significant thing about Gath winning here is he's probably going to be a free agent and not terribly long, right? Does he win? Yeah. Oh, that's a lot of mages. And they're casting Soul Slay. I remember that these giants are allergic to Soul Slay.
Yeah. I mean, they got anti-magic. Gath cast anti-magic this time, so it's not what it was last time. But I think this is a really well played defense by Ulm. You can see that they have the Long Dead Horsemen to clog the gate. They've got a little bit of a Skelly Scam communion, I think, with their fortune tellers, just to keep some, Gath going with Raised Dead and the like.
I think Gath loses this.
Yeah, they do. But I think this is a place where, like, if Gath, had mass flight available, like I read from this that they do not have mass flight yet because they have like enchantment 7 because they have these Adepts of the Silver Order, and this would have been a stomp if they'd been able to do that.
It definitely would have been better. I mean, let's take a look. Where's the total numbers? And they're equal numbers. A lot of these guys were crossbow, so really what you would have had, these guys would have jumped in and been really over. Like,
you're right. Owned by the Long Dead Horsemen. Yeah, so maybe that wouldn't have been...
I don't think it would have been a stomp. I think it would have still been better. I mean, you can't... I can imagine a few things worse
yeah.
than having a big pile of giants in front of a gate with 30 astral mages soul slaying them in the back. Like, it's just, you literally can't do worse than that.
And it's worth noting that, you know, Ulm put up Hal. I think that there is a thug you'll see land in the back, or a couple of Malak thugs, but they get sold pretty quickly. I guess maybe it's just that Gath did not have the right composition available. Like, they had a Flaming Arrows Archers play. Oh, actually, the other thing is, I think the positioning of those archers is forward. What you want to do is you want to put them as far front as you can while still having your chaff get in front. And then additionally, you want to put them on fire orders with no target. And the reason is that some of them may choose to target the mages in the back because of the no armor and walk forward and start firing some stuff back there. And that might have given you a hope of, you know, causing enough attrition to sort of break up the
I agree.
Or whatnot. But I think if they manage to snipe just like the Skelly spam communion, then I mean,
there's honestly so many different things they could have done. They could have done like elemental spam, that would have worked. They could have done really anything but pile up giants in front of the gate. And I mean, flaming arrows is a nice touch.
Yeah.
It's kind of insufficient.
Body ethereal could have been good actually.
They run through the gate walls, kind of. But I mean, honestly, then there's enough. Like most of these giants have been engaged in combat too. Like, there's plenty of chaff for them to hit on.
That's true. Yeah. It's really the unattack first square chaff. Actually, it's sort of fun to watch that guy because that.
Does he get yeeted?
We'll see.
Oh, he's being targeted by some soul slays.
Which, you know, is targeted by a lot of soul slays.
10 damage. He's paralyzed. Oh, but just for a second. It's not looking good for him. Who is this guy?
He's routed, so he's trying to get out.
There's the life drain attack. Okay.
And the crossbows just trying to run into melee.
That's never good. Well, not often good. I hesitate to say never. Oh, he makes it. What a boss.
Like, I think there's cases where it's good.
25 MR. Okay. Damn.
5. They definitely could have gotten him. This may be a case where Ulm, like, if they had more resources, they'd have Eyes of the Void on all the Soul Slayers and that sort of thing, and they would have gotten him. But
I mean, he lost
Long This is actually a fantastic performance by
Wolves. He didn't really lose anything that mattered. He lost 3 black priests and a member of the second tier.
Black priests, you know.
Meanwhile, actually, the losses weren't that ridiculous.
It's I thought it was going to be more
because it was only 29 gibbers and 25 zealots.
25 gibbers. Got enough for it so that the zealots are basically just their gold
It's not. He didn't really lose that much. The Malika thugs, I'm guessing these were thugs. That might be a problem.
Yeah, they were pretty well geared.
Yeah. Well, that's good news for you. Because Gath, I think, is the only person in this game who's going to offer you any resistance.
I have not been unhappy to see this war go long. And actually, I should probably send Ulm some gems to replenish their chaff.
I think that would be good.
Probably be a very good play for me at this point.
Okay, so let's talk about what's coming up then. I think a base strategic goal would be to one fort, like the first turn of war, you want to crack all 3 of his forts.
Yeah, I think it's actually, what I'm thinking is that army in the far east, in my fort there, moves on to his throne. That's due south.
You don't have a non-aggression pact with Atlantis,
this sort of central
though.
Army. I don't, but I don't think that army can deal with...
Okay, as long as you're not worried, because, I mean, there's a chance Atlantis attacks you, especially if you're going on thrones.
It's true, yeah. So I can think about it, but anyway, that army, I think that's the place it can go. If not, it can just raid the 3 provinces that are cold in that space and be ready to hit something next.
Do you know if these are blood hunting provinces right here? So I'm guessing.
Yeah, they've been there all the time. So I would hit them to just kill the blood hunters. And I think this is one of the things where, like, I might bring a pile of flyers with quickening or something, because I really want to get, you know, in the back and get the mages before they run.
We rushed thaumaturgy, didn't we?
That.
Oh, but we don't have 9. Okay. was gonna say you could literally steal all of his corpse constructs.
A corpse
They
construct.
have 4 MR.
Actually, might be something that he's building specifically to defend against me. Now that I think about it, because those will be a great chaff line if I'm doing magic.
Who else relying on undead? I mean, you could do master and slave too, just not easily. Yeah. There's an argument to be. I mean, because you literally it would 1 turn win the battle. Undead mastery. Yeah.
Because it would HP route what he has. So the other play that I sort of have in mind is that I have in that fort a few twice-born sort of death air crosspath Camazots. And my thought is that I would sneak them in on the first turn of the battle, or the first turn where I'm cracking the forts, and then have surprise wielding wins at all of them. One of the things that Xibalba can do is stealth in a really big defense to a fort if they want to. Do skelly spam to hold up the walls, and sort of that sort of thing. And what I really want to do in that situation is just get all the mages to rout and die that way. So, but it's sort of the ideal case is that he tries to do a big defense of that form. So I want to keep it secret that that's what I'm doing.
You have enough flyers to get here in 1 turn?
Yeah. I mean, my flyers are not here currently, so I have some draconians there, but this is my current plan is that in Bogarus is where most of my flyers are.
Yeah,
so
I see a lot.
A pretty big stack of the melee flyers. And so what I would do is use my army size hiding items on the turn that they moved to have it look like nothing happened, and on the turn that I'm planning to pounce.
Okay. I think you're ready to go, man. I think you get blood 7.
This turn.
I think you time blood 7 so that you don't have it when you're attacking, but you have it for the first fort storming, which will be the next turn. And so I would move. I think that's actually 2,400.
I think I may be a turn or two.
I think you attack
delayed
next turn
by just logistics sort of stuff.
Right, because next turn you'll have 6. You'll be working on 7.
Yeah, I think it's going to be
turn after you'll have 7. That'll be the turn you storm forts. So I think you attack. You don't attack this turn. You attack next turn.
Well,
which means this turn you move everybody here.
I think it's roughly that. So that is one option. The other thing that I was considering is that we talked about that alchemy play. So I could this turn.
Holy fuck.
Right now I actually don't have enough gold to make both mages and troops, which I could just cancel mage recruitment. That's totally fine. I've got stockpiles of air mages everywhere. And if you're going to make a war, that's a great thing to do. But anyway, I was thinking, I could do an alchemy turn and then spam flyers to sort of build the chaff to be able to 1-turn pop things. Because I'm actually a little bit short. If you look at my army in that eastern province with the flyer.
Yeah, let's do that. This flyer just burn a hole in your pocket.
Exactly.
Alchemize
so
250
I think I need
a
couple turns to get
you have
ready.
100 left. It's going to give you a ton of money. You can put up maybe a bit more infrastructure, slam flyers in every fort near here. Maybe you don't attack next turn. Maybe you wait 1 more turn. But I think it's go time, buddy.
Exactly. I think it might be 50, which is in 3 turns, just to test the alchemy, make the flyers, move the flyers into position. That's 3 turns. And then strike. The other thing we get this turn is actually get to scout Zalba's armies. You can see his main army just moved into the swamp between them and Mictlan. Yeah, sort of cool to see this composition.
A lot of long dead. I think you might. Well, no. You're gonna fight Gath. What's the bless here? It's Odyssey bless.
A blunder bless.
A lot of crossbows.
You can see is that Rigor Mortis and Wailing Winds or something like that as the battlefield spells. Yeah. I assume that the reason that there's a bunch of undead is because he's doing a fatigue play without his own relief, which I guess he could do with a Blood Sabbath, but I guess didn't in this battle for whatever reason.
I'm trying to think how this would go. I mean, the thing for killing this, you need to think about killing the Colossal Head. It's not ultra hard, but something to think about. That's just Earth Mages on advance and cast normally that can do Shatter. I don't know. That's probably going to be tricky for you.
Yeah, I only have a few Earth Mages, so I could do that. I could try to Soul Slay it, but MR is really high in a capital, so that's probably not a great plan. Although I can do pretty big penetration bonuses if I am inspired to. And I could also hope he doesn't do enough shock resistance to deal with Thunderstrike or or that kind of thing, or I could try to bring one of my Banefire Communions. But anyways, that's definitely one of the main puzzles I need.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, if he's going to be doing Wailing Winds on his own, you're going to be an enemy Dominion. Blood Rain's going to be a knife that cuts both ways.
Yeah.
He has a decent amount of magic weapons.
You know, the thing is, yeah.
Just trying to think what would be.
I think that the play for me, though, this is why I think I need Evocation 7. So I think if I do Firestorm, it's going to kill all of the scaly spam he's trying to do. And I don't think he has, you know, he's unlikely to have sort of the high access to make his mages safe from that easily.
I like that a lot. Do you have, is it 7? Yeah. Okay.
7, yeah. So I need a, you know.
Yeah, okay.
So anyway, that's why, you know, I think I need a few turns.
You do wait for Firestorm. I was thinking this would be easier,
turn
but
50,
Wailing Winds does make it a bit more tricky to have it go super cleanly.
And that's the other reason why I think I will probably do a bit less, like I might do 150 or something of alchemy and then spend the rest on slamming a bunch of, you know, fire hats and so on, so that I can be in control of the Wailing Winds fight.
Oh.
Alt 8 lets me do the water version of it, so I'm good on that. I can just use a water mage for. You know, obviously Firefend is great. It's a little bit cheaper and so on, but you know, I can save that for the you know, World War Rhaga.
I think you got a good plan.
The other thing that I should point out is that I have on my, like, I have sort of one big army on my western flank next to Gath, but I probably need to start slamming troops in the Pangaea region, because like, that army, you know, can fend off one opponent, but if there's like Gartha and Utgard and Gath are all attacking me on that front, like it's not strong enough to fight them when split up. So like I basically just have enough troops to blood hunt in that region. So anyway, so I think the alchemy will be really good. It'll let me do a surge of just-in-time production.
I actually don't think Gath is going to declare war on you until he takes Helm's Cap. So that's the other thing in the timing, why it's good to go sooner than later.
Absolutely. It'll take him a while to march back from the capital, but we have a NEP 3, so there's some time there. But, you know, I think I should just be... I want to have an army that is able to fight.
Yeah.
As soon as they're ready.
The other thing, when people attack into you, is you can drop Dark Skies basically whenever you want. Right? So...
Yeah, I'm actually, you know, I think that's right. Like, I want to save up air gems to be able to do that, but I think the way that I'm currently thinking about it is that I want to be planning for an offensive war. Like, what I want to be doing is rolling over Zabalba and into the northern side of Natala really quickly, such that, you know, they, even if they have their doomstacks sort of marching into some of my territory, like I
was just looking, I was looking around, right? Like, so, okay, let's say you conquer these guys and you start moving down and these guys move forward. Like, you don't really have anything in position if this thing comes and tries to take this throne from you, right? But
absolutely. My plan is going to be Murdering Winter, punish that.
It's not really, I mean, it'll be good for killing some of the mages off, but I mean, honestly, you just do a PD dump here and you do, you know, your Firefend, Firestorm, Wailing Winds with Dark Skies. This army will just dissolve, and then you magic phase, or you move behind it to attack to cut off the flank.
Honestly, I think even without Dark Skies, just with Blood Rain and the other things, I can do it. So, like, Dark Skies certainly will help, but I don't think
it'll also help against Gath, and the other stuff is not going to work that quickly against Gath, right? Like, those giants are going to wade through a lot of Firestorm. They're not going to care about Murdering Winter.
It's not. Yeah, I agree, but Gath, actually, it's their dominion on our border, so Dark Skies is not going to be a good counter against them for keeping those two forts, at least.
Well, I think that's something to think about, right? Because you can preach this up if you want to.
Yeah, it's a trade-off, right? Because, like, I like having fire mages.
Yeah, but, like, you've got a lot of fire
like,
mages,
I actually
right?
want
And, like, if... I'm just saying, these are I'm not saying there's, like, a right or wrong answer, but... If... Like, I think the way to think about Dark Skies in this is the advantage that it gives you is the ability to... It's basically like kind of how we started talking off that last episode, was the advantage of a non-aggression pact really is that it lets you mobilize to be aggressive, right? The advantage of Dark Skies is it lets you mobilize to be aggressive. right? You can defend with much less.
Exactly.
It is so fucking hard to attack into High Dominion Dark Skies. It's so bad, right? So you can defend it with like a PD dump and 5 mages, right? Against an army, like a true army. So, anyway, I'm not saying it's like the right play to make, but it's a way to think about it. If you are going to do that, or if you want to get ready for it, some compromises might have to be made. You might have to fly some mages in here or some priests in here and start preaching this up, and maybe this is going to be your only fire fort over here.
Or maybe a better way to frame it is that will be my only fire fort until I take.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's another great way to frame it, right? Because you're about to be up 3 forts.
Only nation whose forts don't let me make fire mages is Atlantis, and they have a really short border with me. So yeah, I think that's the right way. That's probably a good point. Is that the sort of like I have gained the benefit of being able to produce a whole blood economy in that part of my nation, with basically just that one citadel on the Gath border. But it doesn't need to be permanently my source of fire magic.
You're just shifting operations to Zabalba, and Zabalba doesn't know it yet.
Yeah, they don't know it yet, and they're, I don't know, I feel a little bad because their army is out of position. That's actually one other reason I was thinking about waiting 3 turns. I sort of want to let them get to try their war against Patala. Like, obviously it's in my interest for them to, one of those 2 armies to
get a little more out of position.
I also just feel like from a game fun for everybody perspective, like I'm almost certainly winning this game from just an economic standpoint. Yeah. And so, given that it's not bad for my national interests, like
you can let them have a few turns,
letting them have their.
But yeah, I mean, you're about to have the weight of the whole war. I mean, within 10 turns from now, literally everybody should be fighting you if you haven't won yet. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, so I wouldn't feel too bad about wishing them to move their armies out of position or anything like that.
To kill each other, or have a big fight and kill each other as doomstacks. Well, I guess one thing we can look at is a little bit of an inventory. So if you look at my fort on the border where I've been gathering troops, you can see sort of my demon inventory is more or less visible there. So we've got a few dozen storm demons and a little bit of frost fiends, which I intend to use only sort of for defensive counter raiding because they're only good in cold scales. But it felt worth making a few. We've got a bunch of communion mages over there on the west. And we also have in our treasury, we're doing a bunch of sort of sets of water booster and temp gem gear and a few other sort of things along those lines, like some temp death gem gear. I probably need to make a few more crystal matrices or do some crystal shields because we talked about, using a death 2 bat for doing Wailing Winds, death 1 bat with a skull staff, which brings them to death 2, and that's not good enough. But I do one with I have a copper arm I got from an event, so I could give him that and one of the Power of the Spears shields. But more likely, I'm just going to do a crystal matrix and have him do a.
I mean, you have national access to Wailing Winds, though, right? It's just they're not stealthy.
I do. It's not stealthy exactly. So I think. I'll definitely have one where it's maybe more clear that that's a thing that I can do. But I feel like one of the things that in winning battles and dominions is you sort of want to invite your opponent to make a mistake.
Give them a lot of opportunities to fuck up.
So I almost always will try to have some up my sleeve that I haven't revealed that I have, so that they might take a fight that they'll lose.
Good. Yeah, I like that idea.
You can look at the site searching as well, just as a
it's pretty complete.
F1,
OCD was done, happened here.
Yeah, and I will say that there's some nations for which it's hard to site search fully by this stage in the game. Rhaga is sort of remarkable in that you have pretty good site searching access for everything other than Earth and nature. And I got lucky that I finally found Earth mages. If I hadn't, I think I would have been pressured to go to war with Zabalba earlier because the throne of theirs is the Iron Throne, and that's the only Earth Mage throne anywhere near me. So
I think one thing you might want to think about too, once you alchemize this fire, and I would pressure you. I mean, you were getting 40 a turn, man. I would say do it more than you think you need to. Get a lot of gold. One thing to do too is look at making scouts, but just as assassin chaff, because I think really assassinations. That and Wailing Winds are your only kind of failure modes with this whole Zabalban war. So,
I have a decent amount of experience of fighting into Welling Winds. I think like I haven't done a lot of the Blood Rain version of it that's more intense, but one of the things that's really nice about Rhaga is that most of my mages are like base morale 13 or so. So, giving them fire hats
and I think having Firestorm and stuff, like I think you'll win. I'm not really worried about that. I think the failure mode to kind of consider is more Assassin Chaff. Like, I think that's maybe the only thing. Just find out, and that's a nice thing in late age. There's usually a million commanders around you can get, right? Like,
the other thing that I'll add though is that like most of my mages will be things like a Fire 3 or an Air 3. Those are not super pleasant to assassinate. Like the Fire 3s are going to do Incinerate turn 1 if they don't have a gem. And the Air 3s, I'll probably give them a gem and they'll do a big Air Elemental turn 1. And
I mean,
at least like the cheap lifelong protection, with some skelly spam type things that Zilboba's going to like to do are not going to be good against those. So I'll have a little bit of defense of that form.
I think that's a good point too. But I think it's fine. You're going to have a lot of dudes coming in too. But
I have like one of the things that I've been doing actually is in my couple forts that don't have labs, I've just been making like 2 mundane commanders a turn, like maybe sometimes 1 scout and 1 Arya Sparbet or whatever, and so I just have a lot of flexibility for that.
Yeah, dude.
And I think that's also a thing that the Zayadins will be fun for. Is
they'll be a lot of fun to each put.
I think this actually comes back to the question of what to do with my blood slaves, because one option is I make like 6 lifelong protections and use that as part of my war strategy, and another is I do like 4 vampires or whatever.
I think you want to have access to Blood Rain. I think the vampires themselves, they're a little like whatever, right? So like if you can do a Blood Thorn on your Blood 2s and you have Blood Rain that way, you save a lot of money. And then you get to have lifelong protections. Lifelong protections are going to be good, by the way, like just for casual Firestorm stuff. So,
yeah, they're one of the few. I guess one thing to think about is I have a few types of chaff, right? I've got the Draconians, which really high HP. Fortunately, I don't have enchantment 8, and I probably will want to prosecute this war without it. So I won't be able to make them regenerate. But it's enough hit points that if you do the fire resistant spells, they're not going to die to Firestorm before the battle's over. Then I've got the fire troops, which I've got decent amount of the heavy cavalry, and then I've also been making some of the just like cheap, more chaffy infantry, and they'll stand through Firestorm just fine. But the Arya troops really won't. Like I don't actually have a good way to fix that with buffs either. Like
you have like, Will of Fates, that'll help some. It's not like great against Firestorm, but
I think they just need to be in a different army. Like I think it's they show up to crack the fort and then they go like raid with little quickening raiding parties every other province or that kind of thing. Another thing I'll need to plan, they have a couple of water provinces, and I might do I've got a few of the Ahurani, which are my sort of cool underwater mages, so I might try to figure out either a thug kit or just have them show up with some water elementals.
I think you got a lot of options there. But yeah, this should be pretty cool. I mean, especially if this army gets killed or gets out of position, there's going to be no contest. I think you could take this army out pretty easy, though.
I think it'll be more cool if I get to kill that army, But so it's a trade-off. But yeah, I think
But yeah, I think the thing we talked about a long time ago was just this next war being able to execute it really quickly. So hopefully when we go through it, next week or whenever you're doing it, we get to see like basically a huge alpha strike involving multiple fort cracks. That'll be super cool.
Yeah, I think hopefully we'll be able to give an advertisement for the power of, I guess it's not quite fully late game, but sort of like late mid game birds.
Yeah. All right. And with that, thank you so much for sharing this with us. And I really look forward to the next time when hopefully we see you making the moves, which probably won't outright win the game, but will set you up for basically an inevitable conclusion. So
sounds about right.
All right,
thanks everybody for watching.